Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. The greatest form of rebellion is simply refusing to participate. Sigma females live by this mantra, and society feels their absence like a phantom limb. Here's a startling fact. Studies show that over 60% of people admit to feeling disconnected from the world around them. But for Sigma females, it's not a problem, it's a choice. They've walked away from the noise, the pretense, and the endless hamster wheel of societal expectations, leaving everyone scratching their heads and asking, why would anyone willingly opt out? The answer is simple yet extraordinary. Sigma females see society for what it is, a rigged game with unwritten rules designed to stifle individuality. But here's the twist. Instead of flipping the table in outrage, they just stand up and walk away. Call it quiet defiance or elegant indifference, but one thing's for sure. They're not coming back anytime soon. Number 1. They refuse to play by society's script. Sigma females refuse to live by society's pre-approved script, and that's what sets them apart in the most extraordinary way. Society loves its rules. Dress this way, act that way, speak only when it's convenient for others. But Sigma females aren't here for any of that. They figured out early on that these so-called rules aren't about creating harmony. They're about control. It's not rebellion in the traditional sense. They're not out here setting things on fire or making loud declarations. No, their defiance is quieter but infinitely more powerful. They simply stop playing the game. While others waste their lives trying to fit in, trying to follow trends, or trying to gain approval, Sigma females take a hard pass. They know that societal norms are often arbitrary and suffocating. Wear heels to look professional, smile so you seem approachable, work yourself to exhaustion so you can afford things you don't even need. None of this makes sense to them. What makes this even more intriguing is their unapologetic attitude about it. They don't owe anyone an explanation for why they're not on the same path as everyone else. They're not waiting for permission to be themselves. This refusal to conform doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. They see the game for what it is, a shallow performance designed to box people in and drain them of their authenticity. So they step off the stage entirely. And the best part? They don't feel like they're missing out. While others are busy running in circles, Sigma females are out there creating a life that actually means something to them. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real. And nothing scares society more than someone who's free enough to stop caring about its rules. Number 2, they've outgrown surface-level connections. Sigma females have zero interest in surface-level connections, and they've outgrown the need to fake it just to keep up appearances. They don't see the point in meaningless conversations filled with empty pleasantries or gossip that leads nowhere. For them, time and energy are precious resources, and wasting either on shallow relationships feels like pouring water into a sieve. It's pointless. What makes this so intriguing is how deliberate they are about it. They don't ghost people or cut ties in a dramatic way. They just naturally drift away from interactions that lack substance. It's not that they think they're better than others, but they know what feeds their soul, and small talk isn't it. If a connection doesn't bring depth, understanding, or mutual growth, it's not worth their time. Sigma females crave conversations that explore the raw, unfiltered parts of life, the kind that make you think and stay with you long after they're over. They'd rather talk about dreams, struggles, or philosophies than waste time on social niceties. And that's exactly why most social settings don't work for them. Society thrives on these superficial exchanges: smile, nod, compliment, repeat. But Sigma females find such encounters draining, like a bad reality show that never ends. Their circle of friends might be small, but it's intentional. Each connection is meaningful and authentic, built on trust and mutual respect. They'd rather have one person they can confide in fully than 100 acquaintances who only know the surface-level version of them. For Sigma females, being alone with their thoughts is far more fulfilling than being surrounded by people who don't really get them. And while some may call it antisocial, they call it freedom. It's a quiet, powerful decision to prioritize quality over quantity in every interaction. Number 3, They value freedom over belonging. Sigma females value freedom above everything else, even the comfort of fitting in. While most people bend over backward to belong, changing their opinions, suppressing their true selves, and even following trends they secretly dislike, Sigma females refuse to play along. For them, belonging that comes at the cost of authenticity isn't worth having. They'd rather stand alone in their truth than be embraced for a version of themselves that doesn't feel real. This unshakable loyalty to their own identity is what makes them so misunderstood. Society often labels them as aloof or difficult because they don't mold themselves to fit in. But to a Sigma female, compromising her autonomy feels like imprisonment. She doesn't care about meeting societal expectations or ticking the boxes that others chase so desperately. Fitting in means giving up a piece of herself, and that's a price she's never willing to pay. This choice isn't always easy. There are times when the loneliness of walking a different path can feel heavy, but to a Sigma, it's still better than the emptiness of pretending to belong. They know that chasing acceptance from others is a never-ending game that leaves you exhausted and hollow. Instead, they choose to build a life where their freedom to think, act, and exist as they truly are comes first. Their freedom doesn't just mean doing what they want. It's about the freedom to say no, to walk away, and to live by their own standards without needing validation. While others crave the safety of being part of a group, Sigma females thrive in the independence of standing alone. They may be misunderstood, but they are completely, unapologetically themselves. And that's a kind of freedom most people will never experience. Number 4. They see the flaws in the system. Sigma females have a way of looking at the world that cuts through the surface and exposes the cracks most people ignore. They don't just take society at face value, they dissect it, analyze it, and see the contradictions hiding in plain sight. While others buy into the illusion of progress or the promises of a perfect life sold by advertisers, Sigma females see the strings being pulled behind the scenes. Consumerism, for instance, is a joke to them. They know society thrives on convincing people that happiness comes in the form of the latest gadget, trend, or lifestyle upgrade. But Sigma females aren't fooled. They understand that no matter how much you buy, the goalpost always moves, and fulfillment never comes from a shopping cart. They also recognize the hypocrisy in institutions that preach morality or fairness, but rarely deliver. Governments claim to serve the people. Corporations pretend to care about the planet, and social norms demand kindness while fostering competition and judgment. Sigma females don't bother pretending any of it makes sense. They see the contradictions for what they are, proof that the system isn't designed for authenticity or individual well-being. Instead of going along with the charade, they opt out. They don't feel the need to fight the system or change it. They simply step away from it. They refuse to pour their energy into something they believe is fundamentally broken. To them, disengaging isn't giving up. It's reclaiming their power. By removing themselves from the chaos and the lies, they create space for something real, a life they build on their own terms, far away from society's flawed framework. And while most people are busy patching the cracks, Sigma females are busy walking their own path, untouched by the mess. Number 5, they're selective about who deserves their energy. Sigma females treat their energy like a precious currency, and they're not about to spend it on things that don't matter. They've mastered the art of discernment, knowing exactly who and what is worth their time. While society thrives on endless networking, social obligations, and surface-level connections, Sigma females have no interest in playing that game. For them, forced interactions and hollow relationships are nothing but an exhausting drain. It's not that they're antisocial, they just have a no-nonsense approach to human interaction. If a connection doesn't feel genuine or a gathering feels like an obligation rather than something meaningful, they'll politely but firmly say no. They're not here to people-please or show up for appearances. This isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. They know their energy is finite, and they'd rather channel it into things that align with their goals, passions, or peace of mind. This selective nature naturally sets them apart from society's constant demand for attention. The world seems to run on the expectation that everyone should be endlessly available. Answer every text, attend every event, meet every demand. Sigma females. They step back from all that noise. They'd rather spend time alone than dilute their energy on interactions that leave them feeling drained or disconnected. And they don't feel guilty about it either. While others might worry about offending someone by declining an invitation or pulling back from a toxic relationship, Sigma females have no qualms about protecting their space. They understand that their time and energy are sacred, and not everyone gets a share. In a world that glorifies busyness and overcommitment, their ability to say no with such clarity and confidence is a quiet, powerful rebellion. Number 6. They operate on a different timeline. Sigma females are immune to the ticking clock that society loves to dangle over everyone's head. You know the one. The relentless pressure to graduate, find a stable career, get married, have kids, and buy a house, all on a timeline that seems carved in stone. Sigma females look at this checklist and think, who made these rules and why should I follow them? For them, life isn't a race to hit milestones, it's a journey to be lived at their own pace. This refusal to conform puts them on a completely different timeline, one that doesn't revolve around societal expectations. They're not rushing into relationships just to meet some arbitrary deadline or climbing the corporate ladder to keep up with their peers. If they want to focus on their passions, take an unconventional career path, or skip the idea of marriage altogether, they will, and they won't lose sleep over it. What's fascinating is that this approach often leaves them standing outside the circles where society gathers to bond over these milestones. But that's fine by them. While others might feel left out or anxious about being behind, Sigma females don't see themselves as lacking. They're not concerned with keeping up because they know everyone's path is unique, and no one-size-fits-all timeline could ever capture the complexities of a meaningful life. Their timeline is theirs alone, dictated by their intuition, goals, and values, not societal judgment. It's not about rebellion, it's about freedom. And while society may see them as outsiders, Sigma females know that living authentically, even if it means walking a solitary road, is far more fulfilling than racing to meet someone else's deadlines. Number 7. They refuse to define their worth externally. Sigma females have a rare and powerful trait. They don't let the world decide their value. While society pressures everyone to chase external validation, be it through likes on social media, promotions at work, or compliments from others, Sigma females operate on an entirely different plane. They've figured out that tying their worth to someone else's approval is a recipe for insecurity, so they don't play that game. Their self-worth comes from within, built on a foundation of self-awareness and unshakable principles. They know who they are, what they stand for, and what truly matters to them. This internal compass keeps them steady, even when societal expectations try to pull them in every direction. They don't need applause to feel accomplished, and they certainly don't need a trending hashtag to validate their existence. This makes them incredibly hard to manipulate. Society thrives on making people feel incomplete, convincing them they need more likes, a better title, or someone else's approval to feel whole. But Sigma females are immune to this because they've already decided that their value isn't up for debate. Their worth isn't tied to what they have, how they look, or how others perceive them. It's tied to their own sense of purpose and authenticity. This refusal to define themselves externally often leaves them standing apart from society. They're not caught up in the endless competition to win at life according to someone else's rules. Instead, they focus on creating a life that feels meaningful to them, even if it doesn't look impressive to others. While the world scrambles for gold stars and recognition, Sigma females remain quietly grounded, knowing that their value doesn't come from the outside. It's something they've built from the inside out. Number 8. They're too honest for comfort. Sigma females don't do fake. They're wired for truth, even when it's messy, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. While the world thrives on polite lies and carefully curated facades, Sigma females refuse to participate in that charade. If something's off, they'll say it. If they don't agree, they won't nod along just to keep the peace. Their honesty isn't about being rude. It's about being real. But in a society that values pretense over authenticity, this level of bluntness can feel like a shock to the system. For Sigma females, sugarcoating feels like a waste of time. Why dance around the truth when you can address it directly and move forward? But the world doesn't always appreciate their approach. Most people are so accustomed to hearing what they want to hear that the unfiltered truth can feel jarring. Sigma females quickly learn that their honesty often makes others uncomfortable. It exposes the cracks in facades, challenges unspoken rules, and forces people to confront things they'd rather ignore. Rather than dilute themselves to fit in, Sigma females choose to step back. They're not about to tone down their honesty, just to blend into a world that thrives on small talk, fake smiles, and empty compliments. This isn't about arrogance, it's about staying true to who they are. They'd rather risk being labeled too much than live a life where they have to tiptoe around the truth. Their honesty is both their greatest strength and the reason they often feel out of sync with the world. But for Sigma females, that's a price worth paying. They'd rather live authentically and stand apart than pretend to be someone they're not just to fit into a society built on pretense. Number 9. They reject the idea that busyness equals success. Sigma females have zero interest in joining the cult of busyness. Society loves to glamorize the hustle, equating a packed schedule with ambition and success. But Sigma females see right through this illusion. To them, running on a hamster wheel of endless tasks doesn't mean you're moving forward, it just means you're too distracted to notice you're stuck. They understand that being busy doesn't automatically translate to being productive or fulfilled. Their approach is intentional. They're not impressed by the always-on mentality that so many people wear as a badge of honor. Sigma females don't feel the need to announce how hard they're grinding or how little they're sleeping. Instead, they prioritize what matters, cutting out the noise and focusing on quality over quantity. They'd rather have a few deeply meaningful accomplishments than a laundry list of things done just for the sake of doing them. This perspective often makes them look like outsiders in a society that worships hustle culture. But Sigma females don't measure success by society's metrics. They're not interested in keeping up appearances or competing in the busyness Olympics. For them, success is deeply personal. It's about creating a life that aligns with their values and brings them genuine fulfillment, not one that looks impressive on paper. By rejecting the hustle mindset, Sigma females carve out space for things that truly matter: deep thinking, creativity, and meaningful relationships. They don't let societal pressure dictate their pace or priorities. In a world obsessed with doing more, they focus on doing what counts. And while others burn out chasing external validation, Sigma females quietly thrive, finding balance and purpose on their own terms. Number 10. They're uninterested in climbing the social ladder. Sigma females have no interest in playing the game that most people are so consumed by, the social ladder. While society pushes everyone to climb higher, gather more followers, or rack up superficial achievements, Sigma females couldn't care less about impressing anyone. They're not interested in flexing on social media, collecting likes, or earning titles that sound good on a resume, but feel empty at the core. For them, the rat race isn't even a temptation, it's a distraction. Their value system is entirely different from the one society pushes. While others may fight for recognition or success in the eyes of their peers, Sigma females are focused on living a life that feels right to them, not one that earns applause from the crowd. They've crafted their own path, one that isn't defined by the need to outperform others. This gives them a sense of freedom that people caught in the competitive cycle can't even fathom. The constant chase for status and approval simply feels irrelevant to them. Why bother competing when you can create your own standards for success? Sigma females are more interested in pursuing personal fulfillment than amassing a pile of achievements to show off. Whether it's creating meaningful work, nurturing deep relationships, or simply living authentically, their sense of worth doesn't depend on the superficial markers that society seems to obsess over. In a world where climbing the social ladder is seen as the ultimate goal, Sigma females stand as quiet rebels. They don't need validation from the crowd because they've already validated themselves. Their path isn't shaped by the opinions of others, which makes the race to the top feel like an irrelevant and exhausting pursuit. Instead, they focus on forging their own way, unconcerned with where society thinks they should be. In a world that's constantly pulling in different directions, Sigma females stand as a beacon of quiet strength and authenticity. They've learned that peace isn't something to chase, it's something to protect fiercely. While society celebrates the noise of constant hustle, external validation, and climbing ladders, Sigma females have carved out their own path. Their value is built not on impressing others or adhering to conventional expectations, but on staying true to themselves and prioritizing what truly matters. Their ability to detach from the chaos, reject superficiality, and live authentically is not a rebellion. It's a conscious choice to live with intention. Sigma females don't need the world's approval because they've already found everything they need within themselves. Their lives are rich with purpose, free from the distractions and illusions that keep others trapped in the endless cycle of busyness and comparison. In the end, Sigma females don't just disconnect from society, they redefine what it means to live a meaningful, fulfilling life on their own terms. And in a world that often mistakes noise for success, their quiet, purposeful existence is more revolutionary than it might seem. They aren't just surviving, they're thriving, and they do it in a way that is entirely their own. If you found yourself nodding along and feeling inspired by the raw truth of the Sigma female mindset, don't miss out on more incredible content. Hit that subscribe button and join the journey of discovering the untold truths, breaking societal molds, and living life on your own terms. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.